This tutorial is to try and show you the best place to start when beginning your document or even editing it when you've found there are lots of formatting errors. Here's an example of a document that's already been produced, the Gospel of John. I'm just highlighting it here on the screen. And let me just point out a number of issues that make it quite difficult to edit this document. And therefore it might be better to just cut and paste into a new document. For example, here the header, you can see if you look in the styles pop-up box or wherever styles appears in your Microsoft version of Word, you can see it's some arbitrarily defined style. It doesn't occur in the style guide at all, normal plus 24 point bold. The first header after day one normally would be the art header 1, which you can see in the style selection box here. If I select that to make it the correct header, you can immediately see there are some problems with the whole way in which this document's been formatted. One of the problems is there are no line spaces for tables, etc. to be located on, so this title has now jumped below these boxes here, which are not in fact taken from a previous document or indeed the style guide. They've just been created to look like the style guide. Now this causes enormous problems. Firstly, these icons are supposed to be within cells, and the whole table that you'll find in the style guide actually needs to be located on a blank line somewhere in the document, and again this causes us a problem editing this document because I can't find any place to put my cursor here and create a blank line without actually now going down into the document itself. Let me just show you a few other problems with this document, but before I show you how I think it's easiest to go about writing and then editing and formatting a document. Let's go to this header here. Now this is numbered, but we can see it's called Art Header 3, which isn't numbered. What this title should be is really Art Header 2, which is numbered, as you can see in the style menu here. So if I change that, you can see it's instantly put in a number, which I have to delete the number that you've given it, like so, and then if I right click on the mouse, I can restart the numbering and it will actually restart numbering at number 1. Now that's a correct header. The next one down should obviously be Art Header 3 if you want to be able to pull these into the contents. So these are quite easy to change just by selecting and then clicking on Art Header 3. The real problem with this document is what to do about these boxes. I could just cut them out and then paste in the correct tables, but let me show you here with the a final document called Romans and Galatians, which is formatted correctly. It's much easier to start with this document and just change the text because most of the headers are already set up, and although there are a lot of tables already in the document, it's not really necessary to use those tables. It's still sometimes quicker to cut and paste them from the style guide. Here you can see a page with lots of these tables. You know that they're tables because you can see on screen the grey edge of the cells, and each of these cells here are for an icon to be located, and it makes sure that all the icons are in the right place. So one of the things we could do is to, and I've done this in the past, is to start with a copy of and Galatians, which you rename to the document that you want it to be, and then you just simply edit the text. So here we've got general introductions to Paul's letters. This should be an introduction to the Gospel of John. Okay, so that's gone in okay. Now, in this document on John, we can see that the first table is a pause for discussion. And what we want to be able to do is to put that somewhere below the title. So you can see I'm making some space with the cursor here. Can you see there's some spaces highlighted in blue there? This table is not required, and that's also incorrect because it should be a table rather than a box. But if I now go and place my cursor here just under the title, then go into the style guide and look for a pause for discussion box. Let's see if we can find that. Here we go, there's the pause for discussion box. You can highlight all of that. The best way of doing it, to be honest, is to locate this little cross at the top left hand corner of the table and put your cursor on it and then click, and it selects just the whole table, not any other spaces around it. Now if I copy that and then go back to the Romans and Galatians document, which I'm changing to the Gospel of John, locate my cursor on a blank line as you can see there, and then just paste the box in, you can see now we have a pause for discussion box. Instead of typing all the text in again, you can of course go back to the document that you're trying to edit, select the text that you put in the box, copy it, go back over to the new document, select all of that text and paste the text in, and you can see it's inserted and it's all lined up and it's correct. We've got too much space at the end there, so I'll try and remove the space. Okay, that's fine. Just so happens that the Romans and Galatians, the next box happens to be a note for the teacher, which is what this Gospel of John has got. So I can now go to the box there, select all of the text, copy it, and paste the text in. Too much space at the bottom, let's close that up. Too tight, so put in one space like that and it looks a lot better. And then we've got another box which is just a blank box called Learning Materials. Now you could effectively look for a box here without an icon. For example, here's one called Special Note. Select that, copy it, go back into the document that you're editing, and you need to create some blank lines now. So at the start of this text, having looked at the historical accounts of Acts, I'm going to push that down, going to place my cursor there and copy the box in, which will of course overflow. It wants to be called Learning Materials. Select that and just type in Learning Materials, and then rather than cut and paste, I'll just simply delete that text and write in ESV Study Bible, and that box happens to fit in the page, which is brilliant. So now we come to another header. You need to think carefully about how you do the headers, because you already have an introduction to the Gospel of John. I would question whether you need to have another title called Introduction to the Gospel of John and the Incarnation of the Son of God. You could extend this title here, but that's a decision you have to make. But the main thing is that the next header is a numbered header, which I'm going to copy and paste in. Make sure that you have some blank lines in which to paste. Here we go. So there's my cursor. I've copied that title in, Introduction to the Gospel of John, and it's not correctly formatted. I've highlighted it. It shouldn't have any custom, so I'm going to go back and just redo it as art header 2. Now delete. I'm going to just put art header 2 and type in Sometimes it's quicker to just type them than cut and paste and find it creates formatting errors. Introduction to the Gospel of John. Now here we need to restart the numbering. Right click on it and select Restart Numbering, and you'll see that it's renumbering that correctly. Should now be possible to copy in a huge chunk of text. You'll have to be careful with footnotes and references to see that they get copied across. You may have to work on that afterwards. Copy that whole chunk of text, place the cursor after the title and paste. That's not worked, so I'm going to delete that, and what needs to happen is to select paste and match style. So paste and match formatting, if I select that. Now it's not messed up the text, but the headers here are not correct, so I just simply go into those headers and then make them art header 3, art header 3, and so on. The other thing to do is to just check that the style here is the art body style. It's actually body style, whereas it should really be art body style. Again, just go through all of the text and make sure that you have the right format selected. So that's basically it. It's a little tedious, but it's doable to edit sometimes a whole document within a day or so, just cutting and pasting in this way. You can try and edit the document that you've already got, but you can get into all sorts of problems, like here with these tables not really being tables, they're boxes, and there are no blank lines into which to locate a table. One possibility is to move things around and go down into the text. Let's say here, and create some space into which you can paste a table, and then you'll have to move everything around. So I think it was pause for discussion. So I go back to the style guide. I'm selecting the whole of that table, pause for discussion. I copy it and I paste it into a blank line. And now I need to replace the text with the text in this box up here. I select that, copy it, go back down, paste the text. Too much space. Okay, that's fine. And now I can just delete the icon and delete the table. And in this way you could try and move things around so that they're back where they should be. But personally, I think once you've got a document that isn't really formatted correctly, I think it can be much more difficult going into that document and trying to edit it. I find it easier to start with a correctly formatted document, like I've shown you with Romans and Galatians. And really you should start right at the beginning, writing your text into that document. But if you haven't and it's not formatted correctly, there really isn't an awful lot for it but to just cut and paste and make sure that as you go along you're reformatting the body text like this and the headers to all be exactly the styles that are defined, art styles, in this table of styles here. Okay, that's it.